So I'm left asking myself, how do I feel about an author having a character that shares the same first name as him? Hey, it's Em, here to talk about The Leftovers by Tom Perrotta. This is the book that inspired the HBO series a few years back. The book basically covered the first season, and then subsequent seasons were kind of created, I think, after the fact. It's been a long time since I watched the series. I loved it at the time. I've thought about rewatching it. So I can't give like a full analysis of book to adaptation simply because I just don't have the memory capacity for what the actual show was like. But that aside, I know that I enjoyed the show a lot more than the book. Now, for those who aren't familiar with the story, let's take it from the top. The book was published in 2011. The story is set in 2008 or 9, I want to say. And I'll explain my math in a moment. But on October 14th, 2005 or 6 ish, a bunch of people just disappeared into thin air. And obviously there were parallels to the Christian rapture. Like, people literally just kind of it's not even a Thanos snap, because it's not like they turned to ash and drifted off. They just were gone, blinked out of existence. They didn't leave behind their clothes or anything like supposed rapture people, which is why the cover of the book is a little bit misleading, because it's not like shoes were left there. People were just gone. Like, it's something like 2% of the population of the world. And certainly there are crises of faith involved, because not everybody who disappeared was Christian or a good person or whatever. So that's an angle that would have been interesting to explore. It's not really explored that much in the book. It is explored more in the series, in the character of Reverend Matt. But we'll get there. In any case, this book is it starts on the 3-year anniversary of this event. And the sudden departure is what the event has kind of come to be known as, or the departure. But, the world is picking up the pieces, and people are kind of trying to get back to normal, but obviously, like, cults and things have risen from this, like, event. One cult is the Guilty Remnant, which are people who dress all in white, take a vow of silence, they smoke cigarettes, and they kind of follow people around. They're called watchers. They go out in pairs, and they just kind of watch people, and they give up their worldly possessions and kind of give up worldly pleasure, in the idea that, they were lacking the first time, but they will live better now, or, something. It's not entirely clear what their fundamental belief is. It's not like a God thing, but, anyway, again, a lot of this book is very, it's literary fiction. And so it's got this very interesting premise and a lot of interesting things going on that aren't actually fully explored, because we're more focused on a handful of characters and following them, at this point. So Kevin Garvey is the mayor of Mapleton. I want to say Mapletown, like those little toys from when I was a kid, but no, Mapleton, which my understanding is somewhere probably in Massachusetts. Tom Perrotta is, according to the bio on this book flap, and this book is old, but he at the time was living outside of Boston. I lived in Boston for years and then outside of Boston for a number of years. So I can kind of picture the kind of town I think he's writing about here. None of his family disappeared. Okay, so he's got a son, Tom, who's away at Syracuse University. He's got a daughter, Jill, who's still in high school, and then his wife, Lori, who up and leaves him to join this guilty remnant cult. They live in these communal houses in, different little parts of town that, properties that they've been able to get their hands on, and she's gone off to do this. So he's a single dad, more or less, with Jill at home. Tom, and again, so Tom, the son, who shares the same first name as the author. And as an author, it just has never occurred to me to give a character my name or even any variant of my name. And that's a whole other discussion we can have if you're curious. But it's not really about not being able to separate yourself from the character. Because obviously we can do that. I can watch something that has a character with my name in it, or read something that has a character with my name in it and not feel some kind of dissonance about that, because I'm aware that other people have the same name. But when an author does it, it's like, are you trying to tell me something about you or how you it's in any case. In any case, Tom has gone off to join a different kind of cult. Holy Wayne is this kind of healer type. His son disappeared during the departure, and he's turned this into some kind of crusade, but now he's got these teen wives as a kind of harem, and one of them's pregnant with his child, who's going to be this miracle child who's going to heal the world or something. And so Tom is now left caring for Christine, the pregnant teen wife of Holy Wayne. Holy Wayne is in jail for stuff, obviously. So I had this moment where I was like, so are we just saying that the Garveys, there's a genetic predisposition towards this cult, thing? Is there something about them that causes them to want to, join cults or something? I don't know, because Jill is also having issues hanging out with a bad crowd. She used to be this A student, now she's slacking off and may not be able to actually go to college, things like that. Meanwhile, Jill's friend Amy has moved into the house with them, and there's some weird stuff between Kevin and Amy. So there's a lot of weird older guy teen girl stuff going on in this book that was kind of icky. I was like, I don't like that. One storyline of that would be still maybe not my favorite thing, but the fact that it's happening on multiple fronts, because Tom's kind of falling in love with Christine, and Holy Wayne and his chicks, and Amy, and because Kevin does try to have a relationship with a woman who is age appropriate for him. Her name is Nora. She has lost her entire family, her entire immediate family. Her son, daughter, and husband all disappeared during the sudden departure. And so she's kind of at loose ends. They kind of think of her as the saddest woman. She's dealing with grief, understandably, but she's also not very likable. For somebody who is dealing with grief, she's not written in a way that makes it easy to be sympathetic for her and her circumstances. She's very bristly, prickly, which I guess I could understand that a character, person might be that way, feel that way, be defensive after losing everyone, even after discovering that the husband was actually carrying on an affair with the daycare worker who watched their kids. So I can understand that, but I feel like there were probably better ways to write that. And to be honest, Perrotta's female characters in this this book are not, none of them are sympathetic or very likable. So I'm like, either he doesn't write women well or he doesn't think very well of women. I don't know. I've never read anything else by him. I don't know anything about him. But at the very least in this book, Christine is insufferable. Lori is insufferable. Jill, Amy, Nora, they're all ugh. And I think we're supposed to feel bad for the guys who are, you know, dealing with these women in these situations or whatever. And I'm like, no, I don't feel bad for them because they're not good either. But all of this to say, the story, like, it focuses on these characters and kind of how they're dealing with stuff post departure. The book goes from that 3rd year anniversary where Mapleton's having a parade, you know, to honor the departed, and it goes through to the following April. So, you know, you're kind of covering the highlights of like holiday season, right? The Thanksgivings and Christmases and things like that. Lori over at the Guilty Remnant has a trainee named Meg, and she and Meg are bonding, and spoilers, but like it turns out that one of the sorry, my light just went out. One of the things that they're expected to do if they bond with another Guilty Remnant member is one of them is going to have to murder the other at some point. Like that's you know, it's considered a big sacrifice. It's like, you know, it's weird. It's weird. And again, like this book it feels like there were a lot of potentially interesting stories. Like they keep finding these dead Guilty Remnant people around town and they can't figure out who's doing it or why it's happening. But that's, you know, and then we find out that it's because they have this sacrifice your partner thing that they do. That would have made a good kind of thriller, you know, story, mystery story. The Holy Wayne thing, that could have been a good book in and of itself, right? But instead, it's all kind of very surface. This book does not delve, okay? It just kind of, it touches on things, and I think the author felt like, but then, you know, the reader will, like, pick up on stuff and do the rest of the work, which is fine, except, like, there isn't enough here to be interesting on its own to make me want to do that work, to make me want to invest in these characters and the things that are going on. I needed a little bit more depth to really get into it. It's almost like a lot of wasted potential, right? And like Christine has the baby and Tom drops the baby on his dad's porch and then takes off again because Christine ran off to some kind of music festival with the Barefoot People, which is another kind of cult-ish group. So Tom leaves the Holy Wayne thing because that's fallen apart since Wayne's in jail, and now he's a barefoot person. Like, you know, like there could have been like so many interesting stories in this book, and instead we kind of just get like this surface level glossing of the characters. Even the characters are not deep. They're just not. And it's almost like this book thinks they are, the way everything's written, but like, and then there's kind of like casual racism. Nora has this hair stylist named, I want to say his name was like Giorgio or something, and she like passing when we're in her like mind, her POV, it's third person but like limited, so you go character to character, and she thinks of him as talking like some kind of old movie vampire or something. I was like, it's not cool. Like, yeah, you know, like that's not, wow, way to be just casually terrible. But she's terrible in other ways too, so maybe not so casually. Like, and then there are characters who appear and just evaporate. Reverend Matt, who was played by Chris Eccleston in the series, and he was great. So he is hung up on the fact that people were raptured and he wasn't one of them, and now he's like, what did I... So he's dedicated himself to putting out this newsletter about how the people who disappeared weren't that great. They were doing actually terrible things. They were actually awful. Like, and that's when he writes that Nora's husband Doug was having this affair, and like he writes about how this person over here was, you know, secretly a sexual dominatrix or something, you know, just whatever. He's like, so it wasn't a rapture. It wasn't really a rapture because I didn't go, and the people who did go were not worthy. You know, like he's having that big crisis. But after he, you know, does his newsletter that outs Nora's husband, he just disappears from the narrative. We don't see him. We maybe hear about him in passing, like once or twice more in the book, but that's it. Like, he served his narrative purpose and now he's no longer exists. Whereas in the television series, it's great because Matt's a fully fleshed character, and you see him struggle, and he gets weirder and weirder, and but like it's and then like Nora has this sister Karen who goes to the mall with her at Christmas, and you know, Nora's like dealing with seeing little children at the Santa Claus line and, you know, remembering her kids or whatever. And Karen's kind of there to, you know, buck her up. And Karen also is the one who's ready to, you know, fight for Nora when Nora is confronted by Doug's, you know, mistress and things like that. And Karen seems cool. But again, once she's served her narrative purpose, she disappears again. You know, like you don't hear about Karen at all after that. So yeah, I gave it a 3.25. It's a very easy read because it is slickly written, I want to say. Like there's something about it that just, you know, it glides, right? But not a whole lot actually happens because we're focused on these characters and their interpersonal stuff, but they're not really doing a whole lot. You know, Kevin starts dating Nora, and then it just doesn't work out. But then, at the end of the book, when Tom leaves the baby on the doorstep and takes off, Nora has gone to see Kevin, finds the baby, and then when Kevin comes home from a softball game, like Nora's standing there with the baby going, look what I found, you know? And it's like, are we supposed to believe they're going to start some kind of family? I don't know. Like, we haven't been given anything up to this point that would lead us to that conclusion, because Nora's ready to, I mean, their relationship wasn't working out. Nora was getting ready to just kind of leave town, change her name. She's changed her hair color, you know, that whole thing. But I guess Lori kills Meg and is like, the guilty remnant is moving her to a safe place so she doesn't get arrested. Tom is off to do barefoot people stuff and try and find Christine again because he has this hang up about Christine now. And Jill is maybe finally gonna go to college. I don't know. Amy moved out because I guess she realized it was getting too awkward between her and Kevin, which good for her. Like, I feel like, you know, and then the book focuses on weird stuff. There's like whole big sections of like town meetings. And I'm like, this is not interesting and not useful to any. I mean, are we supposed to just be getting character stuff about Kevin in this? Because we're not really. We're just hearing about people in the town making complaints. And then there's like the whole softball game thing towards the end where it's like, I don't need a play-by-play of this softball game. I don't care. But it's like Kevin's thoughts interspersed with what's going on in the softball game. And I'm like, it didn't add anything for me. It just, aside from pages. And yeah, I don't know. This is one of those books that the more I think about it over time, I may like drop my rating in increments. It was fine, I guess, but kind of boring. Like I said, a lot of wasted potential. I will say, when I was reading about it, 3 years past this huge event, it did strike a chord after, us being, 4-ish years past like lockdown, well, 3 years past lockdown, right? Like we were locked down from 20 to 2021 ish. And I don't know, it was different for everybody, but where we were, it was almost exactly a year. March 2020 to March 2021 is when my kids went back to school in March 2021. So yeah, 3 years out, a lot of the world is just kind of getting back into its old routines and pretending like nothing happened maybe. And some people are like, don't forget what happened. And, it could happen again. This should have changed your lives more than it did, that kind of thing. And so some of those arguments, feel timely or they resonate. But yeah, other than that, I did that part of it. I was kind of like, oh yeah. But then again, it doesn't really fully explore. This book doesn't really explore much of anything. It just kind of touches on a bunch of stuff, a bunch of random stuff. And then it's like when you go to a restaurant and they bring you a bunch of little plates with tiny things on them and they all taste good or fine, like they're beautifully presented and they're nice, but you're like, I could have used more. Like you're actually gonna feed me anything other than these tiny little tastes of stuff. That's what this book was like. That actually sums it up very well. It was fine and like it tasted nice, the little tidbits that I got, but I wanted more of something. Except maybe the grown men with the young girls. Could we just not? Let's just not do that. That's gross, okay? Like, if you're telling that story, if you're telling that mystery thriller story, that's one thing, but I did not need the casual old men falling in love with teen girls thing that this book was serving. I did not need that. That, you can take that plate away. No, thank you. In any case, that is The Leftovers. I gave it a 3.25. I kept it at 3 on Goodreads because I was just like, this is fine. Like, I got through it, and it wasn't like a hard read, but it didn't really satisfy, I guess, is the thing. And yeah. If you've read it, let me know what you thought. If you've seen the series, let me know your thoughts about that. Should I go ahead and go rewatch it? Because maybe that'll make me feel better about all this. I was picturing the actors as I was reading it, even though the descriptions for some of the characters did not match the actors. But yeah, so let me know your thoughts. I've started rereading Dune Messiah, so that will be next up. I might do that book. It doesn't have parts the way Dune did because Dune Messiah is much shorter, but I might still just do videos in chunks as I read and have thoughts. Once I collect enough thoughts, I might stop and do a video as I go along while reading that one. But I'm away this weekend, so I may just, on long plane flights, just try and sit and read and bang my way through it. We'll see. But, again, let me know your thoughts about The Leftovers, book, TV show, or Tom Perrotta. If you've read anything else by him, is it worth trying more of his work? Again, I'm not really a lit fic person, but maybe. And until next time, take care.